Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. Hello.
Hey guys.
Happy Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics, and it is debunking the 5 biggest branding myths. So everybody has a brand. Everything you do, everything you say, gives somebody a feeling about you, right? Gives them something to remember about what you stand for. But the question is it the message and image that you want to portray? So just because you have a brand, somebody else could have assigned that to you, and you might not have played a whole big part in it, right? And it may not be the brand you truly want. And that's what's great about branding is we can take those most authentic parts of ourselves and we can create this awesome brand to help us get across the points of what we stand for, what we're all about to our potential prospects. So that's what we're talking about today, but there's a lot of misconceptions.
A lot of misconceptions. Why are we talking about misconceptions today, guys? The reason we talk about misconceptions today is because most of y'all that will watch this might belong to 7 or 8 or 9 groups that talk about branding that don't know anything about branding. They are run by people who don't know anything about branding, but they will tell you that they have branding. They do not have branding. We literally wrote the book on it. She ate it, actually. I sort of just came along secondly and got to parrot what she did. But I'm living proof every day that the branding works if you do the branding the way the branding's supposed to be done. And branding is so much more than just a logo. It's so much more than just a tagline. It's so much more than your facial recognitions. It's so much more. In this presentation, we're going to debunk major misconceptions about branding, the very misconceptions that you're joining groups that don't know what they're talking about when it comes to branding, right? And that right now is the time to do it, guys, because there's a flood of people that are coming into this market. A flood. Today, in fact, at 3 o'clock, I'm going to have like the 4th recruiting conversation I've had this week. Like people just coming out of the woodworks wanting to be rich real estate agents and mortgage brokers and officers. And it's time now for those of us who have been doing this for a while to stand out against your competition. So let's go over these myths about branding.
I was enjoying that.
I got excited all of a sudden. Like I jumped up and I was like, I want to talk about something passionate.
I kind of lost my place for a minute.
I know.
Okay, so these are the 5 big old excuses, misconceptions, myths, whatever you want to say about branding that I have heard over, the last almost 30 years. Okay, so the number 1 myth about branding for most people is I'm already branded.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Everybody says they're branded.
They believe that because they have a logo, a tagline, and a photo of themselves, that's a brand.
I've had people had less than that said they were branded.
That's true.
But the truth of the matter is the drunk in town's branded because every time people see them, they say, well, there's the old drunk.
There's the old drunk in town. It's like
right?
Otis.
Exactly. Checking himself in jail.
Andy Griffith's show, which is my favorite, by the way. I love the Andy Griffith show. But, let's look at it this way. So let's say, you're a real estate agent out there and you think, well, I'm already branded. People know I'm a realtor. Well, I had that exact conversation about 8 years ago with this awesome lady in Arizona. And she said, well, I feel like I'm already well branded. Everybody knows me, they know I'm a realtor whenever I walk into a room. And I posed this question to her that not only got her to really think, but also made her join the program that same day. And that was, okay, well, look, Sherry, I understand that, when you walk into a restaurant, they may say, oh, there's Sherry, she's the realtor. Okay, but you're looking 2 tables over to the left, there's Michael, the realtor. 3 tables to the right, there's Tanya, the realtor. Now, who do you choose? It's not enough just to be known for your profession. And that's when we came up with the statement that a great brand is not about being known for your profession. It is about being known for being different in your profession. So who are people most likely to remember after they leave that restaurant, right? So that's really what you want to look at. So if you feel like you're already branded, Does your brand answer these 5 critical questions?
These are huge.
You'll want to write these down.
And everybody wants to plagiarize it. Go ahead and steal it and I'll put it on your group, your branding group. Okay.
Michael's in a good mood
and you don't even have to say that we told it. Okay. I'm going to give you permission. Just go ahead and steal it, because I'd rather just give you, when we give advice about branding, it's like my dad owned a car lot one time. And I used to ask him, like, every time there was a theft, I was always like, Dad, what they stole 2 more radios out of the car. Why do you not lock the doors? And he could, cause dumbass, if I lock the doors, they'll break the window out and steal the radio. Now I just have to put a radio in. And that's what I feel like every time somebody with a branding group steals one of our things. So here's these 5. So make sure y'all write these down. Okay. Because this is very important. Go ahead and steal them. All right. And then, but if you share this post, then you'll see that I gave you permission. So, I mean,
that's right. You're right. And you'll accomplish
permission.
2 ends, to the story too. So, and a full, like the full message, not just part of it. Right. So we're actually just having a little fun with you guys today, but here are the 5 questions that every great brand must answer. Okay. Number 1, what sets you apart? Number 2, who do you serve? Number 3, how do you serve them? 4, what qualifies you to serve them? And 5, how does it make their life better? Okay. And if your brand doesn't answer those questions in terms of messaging, imagery, all of the puzzle pieces that make a one full complete brand, you don't have a brand. You don't have a brand. Okay. Yeah. You don't have a brand that anybody's going to remember for the right
unless
reasons.
Your brand is, I have a half-ass brand. And then you got a brand. Actually, so there is that one scenario.
But you can't be known for that.
You could be known for half-ass. I do half-ass work. That would be a brand.
Like, I know a lot of people who are known.
Hey, I passed a barbecue joint the other day looking at property, and it said "Not famous yet barbecue." I thought that was genius. I was like, okay, and it says no awards won. I thought it was great. That is actually fantastic branding right there.
It reminds me a long time ago of when Hertz and Avis were going at it in terms of the number 1, number 2 rental car companies.
That's a great example of branding.
Hertz was number 1. Avis was number 2. You know what their slogan was? We're number 2. We try harder. It was genius. We try harder. That lets them know they know where they stand. And if they're going to get to number 1, they've got to try harder. Right.
Yep. It took them 21 years for Hertz to go out of business for them to be number 1, but that's okay. That's a different story. That's a different episode.
Number 1 was trying harder too.
So
Apparently.
number 2, I know we're giving y'all a lot of numbers today, but remember we're debunking the 5 biggest myths. Okay. And so number 2 is a slogan or a tagline has to say it all. Guys, you can't do that. It's impossible. There's no such thing. I wish there was. Exponential, like supercalifragilistic expialidocious brand, and nobody even knows what that means, right? You can't put it all into 5, 6, 7, 8 words. You don't need your slogan or your tagline to be a paragraph. So you can't do it. So stop trying to get that done. You have to focus on what makes you different. And you're going to find several things. You could be like, oh, look, there's 8 things that make me different from my competition. There's a strong one. I promise you. Pick the strong one. Run with the strong one. And you want your slogan or tagline to be catchy. You want it to be, it's the identifier that catches people's attention, but it's not going to hold their attention. We liken it to a book cover. So your tagline or your slogan is the title of the book and what the book face looks like. And is that going to make your book stand out against a sea of other books? But they're going to have to pick up that thing, and you're going to have to carry them along later with messaging that is going to keep them in the book. I hope
tells the rest of the story.
That tells the Paul Harvey part of it.
Exactly. So biggest branding myth number 3 is that your brand shouldn't turn people off. Let me repeat that. People think your brand should not turn people off. Okay. Well, it should turn people off, but not necessarily in an offensive way, guys. There are some people who just don't fit the goals, the needs, the talents and skills that you have in mind, right? Some of you maybe want to work with one customer type. There's another customer type you're not really well suited to work with. It's to your advantage and theirs too that they choose somebody else to work with. That's okay. If you put yourself out there in the right kind of way, you're going to attract your people. Mm-hmm. And every outstanding brand, guys, is polarizing in some way. Yep. Believe it or not, some people don't like us. I mean, right?
What? They like us enough to steal from them.
Michael's on the stealing kick. I love it. He's not wrong. But 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 you know, people, there are going to be people that when I say they don't like you, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't like you as a person. It just means they don't really choose you to do business with because it's not the right fit for them, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah,
A great brand evokes one of three responses. Okay, when somebody sees your brand, they instantly think one of these three things. That's exactly what I've been looking for. Okay, which is awesome.
Yep.
2, that's interesting. Let me learn more. That's the book cover Michael was talking about. Let me see if I want to turn to page 1, right? Chapter 1, chapter 12. Okay. And then the third response is, that's not for me at all. That doesn't mean they don't like you. It just means it's not the best fit. You're not going to be a fit for everyone, right? So, and that third option.
At least you better not be trying to be.
That is very true. That is very true. Better not be.
I know that's weird. Listen, guys, I know that's weird to hear. Like, I understand that's strange. You're like, what? We're going to cut this guy off right now. We don't want to talk to these people. This guy's bitter about people plagiarizing his stuff. And she's telling us not to pick out, not to be attractive to people. How dare they? That's polarizing, right? But no, the point that we're
Stay with us, though.
The point that we're trying to make is you got to keep business, right? You don't want to work with everybody. You don't. And if you're not identifying who you want to work with, guys, then you got to call us. We've got to talk, because that is the secret to
where it all begins.
Yes, that's the secret to your business taking off and exploding. It really is.
And honestly, we don't work with everybody either.
No,
there's, out of all the calls that we get and interest that we get in some of our programs, there's probably only about 30% of the people that we can help. Right. Because it's
just the way it is.
We work with a certain type of clientele. They have to, have certain characteristics. And that's a great thing for them and for us, because we know what we do best. They know what they're looking for.
Yeah. And we're not going to take money from people we can't help. And they're not going to be happy with us if we did. And your customer base is the same way. And so that's what we're talking about when you are polarizing and you're going in the right direction. Okay. Because I promise you, there is a mountain of business out there for everybody. So number 4 in our 5 myths that we're debunking here is everyone can say that. So it's not really different. All right. So how many people, show hands, don't feel like they're any different than what sets me apart? What makes me different? Right. If you're having those struggles, then that's definitely coming out in your marketing. If you're not doing marketing, that's why you're not getting any calls. Okay. So all of us are individuals is what you want to keep in mind. All of us are unique and all of us are special in our own right. And all of us have been down the path of life to get us to the point that we decided we wanted to be in the real estate business. That's what needs to come out. That's what needs to come out. What sets you apart could actually be claimed by somebody else. Doesn't really matter. Number 1, they're probably not using it like you need to be using it. So number 1, you're going to be able to get them just by the fact that you're using that identifier more than that other person, right? But one of the immutable laws of 22 immutable laws of marketing, which is a fantastic book. If y'all, I would suggest you pick it up. It's the law of leadership states that it's better to be first than it is to be better, right? So it doesn't matter if there's other people in your town. You're like, well, if I say this, that person can say the same thing.
If I focus on waterfront,
but if they're not saying that same thing, it doesn't matter if you become first, right? You have to keep this in mind. This is the rule for number 4. Better is subjective. Different is inarguable. You're looking for what is different, and it's okay, even if you're not the greatest at that different, but you're the first out there claiming to be different. Make sense?
Exactly. So in other words, if you've got to carve out your path and plant your flag in it before somebody else does.
Yep.
Right. So,
and if somebody already has, then run faster. That's just the way it is.
And we actually have a BrandFace addition to that law. We kind of flipped it on its head just a little bit. Instead of it's better to be first than it is to be different, which we believe.
Definitely.
It's better to be different than it is to be better.
Yep.
Right.
All day long. All day long.
So myth number 5 is it's not personal. Keep it professional. In other words, keep your personal life out of it. I'm not calling you to buy a car from you or a house from you or work with, hire your HVAC company. I'm not calling you to find out whether your kid went to, where your kid goes to college. I'm calling you to perform this type of service, right? Or sell me a certain product. That is very untrue, guys. People don't do business with a logo. They do business with a person.
With a person.
And they're really interested in who you are behind the scenes. So a couple of ways that we know that to be true, we don't just speculate and, pontificate about it all day. We know it to be true because we look at our own marketing and how we do things and what really garners the most attention. So it was a couple of years ago, we went to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail and had a blast there. And we actually saw so many fantastic examples of branding. First thing we noticed was that every distillery had their own unique identity, their brand identifier or elevator pitch, if you will. One was the oldest oldest still working distillery.
Yeah.
Another one was the
oldest building.
Yeah, the oldest building, the distillery using more modern distillation practices. So every distillery had their own thing. And they also had a backstory of who owned them. How did their story start? Why are they known for what they're known for?
Why their bourbon's the best.
Exactly. Why their bourbon's the best. In reality, only you and I can decide what's best, and what might be best hit for him might not be my favorite bourbon, right?
That's why there's a million different brands of it.
Exactly. But
the
they're
brands
all
are still the same and most
Exactly.
important, right? And the most important thing is every one of them, Wild Turkey. Everybody knows about Wild Turkey. Everybody knows about Wild Turkey, but the backstory of Wild Turkey is what makes Wild Turkey incredible, right? And so that is, even you would think, well, I mean, they don't need a backstory, right? They're Wild Turkey. I mean, they got to be, no, the backstory is what made them Wild
Turkey because they have a backstory.
Yeah, and
right?
and then once you learn that, you're like, wow, and everything tastes sweeter.
Yeah,
it's just
that's
like,
right.
Oh,
Well,
this makes sense.
It goes back to, being better is subjective, different is inarguable. Each one of those bourbons, they represent something different to each individual. But different is inarguable. They are this type of bourbon made this way by this family. Here's the story. That's different from everybody else, right? And that's what you want to do. Another thing is the personal aspect of things. That was an example of, we went on a personal trip and we related it to branding somehow. But they loved the fact that where we were telling the stories, we were helping them understand on just a daily, in day in the life, aspect of things, how that related to what we do and why we choose to do it. Well, one of the blog posts on April 1st, 2015, I wrote a blog post that's one of the highest, viewed blog posts to date. And the subject line for the email that we sent out to promote that blog post had one of the highest open rates of any email we've ever sent out. And it was a blog post about my dad. I talked about having a long conversation with him on a 2-hour drive through, down the highways surrounded by cornfields in Ohio, and how he looked at the billboards and talked about how awesome it would be to live on a platform in between two billboards, and how it was big enough to really bigger than some apartments, and you could run electricity up there, like all sorts of things. It was the craziest branding conversation I have ever had. It actually turned into a branding conversation whereby I, branded my dad as Billboard Gene. And it was just a funny one, but we related it back to branding. So the personal side is interesting to people. If it was all about, about branding all the time and just talking about the technicalities of branding, they would get old and boring really, really quickly. So that's it, guys. And so I'll run back through the list with you one more time of the top 5 biggest branding myths that we debunked for you today. Number 1 was I'm already branded.
Probably not.
Number 2, a slogan or tagline has to say it all.
And you've tried to say too much.
Your number 3, your brand should not turn people off.
Yes, it should.
Yes, it should. Number 4, everyone can say that, so it's not really different.
Yes, you are.
And number 5, it's not personal. Keep it professional.
It's most definitely personal.
Yes, it
keep
is.
it personal, not like taking it personal, but keep it personal to you, because your clients are personal to you.
Share a little bit of who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, because people will choose you. They don't choose that logo. They choose the person that represents that logo.
Absolutely, they do, guys. No matter how many transactions you can claim you have, right? It doesn't matter. It's the person behind it that they want to do business with. Show that person, okay? Now, thank you so much for our time. Listen, the whole reason we do this and have fun with it is because it's about prosperity. That's not a bad word. But we're not talking about money, just money when we say that. We're talking about the 360 of a full, abundant life, which we truly hope that each and every one of you find and have and live every day. But we know at BrandFace that prosperity favors the bold. So we say, be bold, folks, especially with your brand and especially in 2021. And thank you, Ms. Tanya.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you guys for joining us today. If you want more information, hit us up in the comments. All right.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Brought to you by BrandFace, the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe.